Hey guys, this is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. This show is created to discuss life topics and hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. Hey guys, this is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to discuss life topics and hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. So today I have a very, very powerful woman with me. I respect her highly, and I'm so glad she is here. Her name is Darlene Lee, and she has a lifelong passion to help women succeed in business. And she has started the Gigpreneur, which focuses on solo entrepreneurship to help women wishing to launch an idea or in need of encouragement. Her many years as a business professional at one of the nation's top accounting firms and her leadership in business development and women's ministry give her a very unique perspective. Darlene Lee functioned as a accountability coach, if I can say that word properly, accountability coach, a virtual business manager, and she can help you build a better, more effective website for your business. So Darlene, I am so glad that we were able to finally connect so you can do this with me. And I wanted you to introduce yourself to our audience so they can know a little bit more about you before we get into the nitty-gritty.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nita. I don't know who's more excited, me or you. So thank you so much for having me here, and congratulations on your new show.
Thank you.
You pretty much said it very well. I think what I'd like to do is just tell you a little story about how I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I was a kid, that's when we had neighborhoods for community. I used to have a business where I would clean our neighbors' bicycles. And for like $1, I'd clean their bicycle, they'd drop it off, pick it up, and that was that. So I've always had some unique ideas on what it is that I wanted to do, and and somehow be a part of the entrepreneur community.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that
idea. So I started the Gigpreneur, which is an overarching business theme, and I have 2 or 3 talents and passions that I have put out there. And as you mentioned, the virtual business manager, I help people with their websites. And I also act as an accountability coach. So I can walk beside people who are doing startups or who need help during that growth stage.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's really, taking what you were doing before, which, let's talk about when you were a kid, right? Taking something where you were already thinking outside of the box for doing a business, but then now also helping others think outside of the box so they can do their business, which is, it talks about growth, right? The way we grow as, something that is innately in us, I think, naturally in us, even as children, sometimes can be something we can utilize as adults.
Yes,
right?
Very much so. Right.
I wanted to talk to you and have you give my audience like a little bit more about what it is to align yourself with your talents, your desires in business. Because I think that 2020 kind of hit everybody hard, in different ways. And I think people are trying to seek how to align themselves. A lot of people have found it. Like some people were like, wow, I lost my job, but I was able to create a business doing X. But a lot of people didn't do that. A lot of people were like, I don't know what to do, right? How do we do this? Like, do you have questions or things we should be asking ourselves about how to align ourselves?
Absolutely. And I think anyone who is in business or not, or home, should be an entrepreneur. Doesn't matter if you're full-time, part-time, stay at home, you should always have something percolating in the background. And one of the first steps is to really determine what those innate natural abilities, skills, and talents and passions are that you have. And one of the things that or several of the things that you can ask yourself is, what brought me joy when I was a kid? It may have been cooking, dancing, singing, enjoy working with animals. Maybe you had like helping people. There are so many ways in which you can get down to the heart of the matter and just be in that space of joy in what puts that smile on your face. And it can be 20 things,
right?
But inevitably there's going to be a pattern or a theme that is threaded through those 20 hobbies or things that made you happy, that we can come down to 2 or 3 that you can actually, make a business out of or start a hobby.
Yeah, I have a little story about that because as you were saying that, I went back into my memory bank here, which doesn't go too far sometimes. But I remember being a child and wanting to be in the kitchen and cook. My mom was always in the kitchen. She was the cook in the house, of course. And I remember being there at the kitchen acting like Julia Childs because at the time that's who we had to
Yes.
watch. And I would be talking to my fake audience and trying to cook and stuff like that.
Wow.
And it's funny because that's what I do now, right?
Yes.
I went back to become a chef, and then I started that other podcast, which is Memoirs of a Fat Girl, and on there I actually do cook on camera for people. So it's just, you're right. I think that once you stop for a second and stop like thinking about all the worries and the bills and the stuff coming at you, because it's always going to come at you. That's the thing, right? It's
Right.
always going to come at you. But I think there's something to be said about what you said, like what is in you from when you even were a child that you always wanted to do or always liked doing, but we
Yeah.
left it on the wayside somewhere, right? And it's
Yes.
life kind of beats you up a little bit like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think also, pertaining to women, we tend to beat ourselves up. We want to be perfect at everything. We get paralysis analysis where we
Yeah.
can't even take that first step. But this is a fun first step. This is
Right.
something that, you can sit down and just, be joyful in the way and the things that make you happy that come from the heart. And
Mm.
don't pertain it to where you are now because everybody can change if there's a will.
That's good. That's very good, and that's very encouraging, and I love the paralysis analysis because I tend to do that. I tend to do that. So I analyze and analyze and analyze and analyze and analyze until sometimes I don't even do it anymore. I just kind of said, forget it. At that point I over analyzed. You know what I
Right.
mean? But you're right. I don't know if it's just a woman thing. I think sometimes it can be an insecure thing, that sometimes we overanalyze because we're afraid, we're fearful, and don't want to do something that might go wrong. So it's really amazing that you're coaching these people and helping them to naturally think about what is in them already and
Yes.
what puts a smile on their face already. I
Right.
did like what you said though about bringing a community in.
Yes.
How do
Yes.
you do that? Like, how do you do that authentically? Because that's tough.
Yes, it is. Well, it's tough on yourself more than it
Yes,
is
that's
the
what I
other
mean. Yeah,
people.
it's tough on you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the first things is that you have to put your ego aside and kind of
Mm,
be a third person in the conversation. You want to bring in your best friends and
that's
the
great
ones that'll be
advice.
honest with you and say, you think you're really good at this, but you're really not.
Right.
This is where you're really good at. This is where
Right.
I see your eyes sparkle. This is where I hear you come from the heart. And the things that you're not so good at, that's okay. We can't be good at everything. So the things that we're not so good at, then ask your friends to help you with those pieces if that's
Yeah.
part of the business or the hobby that you want to pursue. And I think, again, taking your emotions out of that equation really, really helps. And
Yeah.
I also think that no matter how old you are or where you are in your life, we already have so many tools.
Hmm.
And I believe the tools that you're lacking will come to you as needed. So you just need to put one paver in front of the other and step on it and move forward.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point because I tend to also just like try to see the full picture, and sometimes it doesn't matter what you're even thinking. It may not even turn out that way. So
Right.
you're right, putting your one foot in front of the other and just first step, first step, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
I think that another great point that you made, which I think is very helpful, not just to me as I'm listening to you, but I'm sure that people who are listening and the people you coach, is that you need to take your ego out of it, because that could be a hard one, for not just for you to accept, but also for people to tell you the truth. Because
Yes.
if you are someone who is so strong willed and so strong minded and have a high ego, and people are trying to be authentic with you and you take it the wrong way, then they won't be authentic with you, and then that's just going to prolong or make
Yeah.
your process harder, right?
Yes, that's true. And by ego, I mean, like you said, that emotional piece.
Yeah.
Don't be offended by what you hear. And if, again, you can take yourself out of it and listen as if you were in the third person, I
Hmm.
think that helps a lot. And like you said, people will be more honest with you,
Hmm.
and they're being objective. They're not there to make you feel bad if they're truly your friends. Now, if they're being mean, well, that's a whole nother story. Are they
Right.
really your friends, right? This is coming from really a true unconditional heart position that that person is, trying to help you.
Yeah, that's good. You know what else? As you're talking, I'm thinking about when people try to instill on you or put on you what they think you should be doing. That's tough, right? When
Yes.
somebody says, "Oh, you should be a," I don't know, somebody said to me, "Nina, you should be a pilot," you know? Do I then, have to sit there and try to figure out how I should be a pilot because someone said so? I think
Yeah.
that happens to a lot of us, right? Oh,
Yeah.
you should be
Yeah.
an accountant. So then you're thinking, well, I'm not very good with numbers, but if they think I am, maybe I should think about being an and so I think that's what you're saying is kind of, don't bring on so much, but think about what's in you already, what's naturally in you already, and seeing if what you do or what people see in you aligns with it. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And
Okay.
I think also you made a good point. Take away the labels.
Oh, that's good.
Like if someone said you'd be a great accountant, well, what does that mean? What is it that you think I would be a good accountant that would make me that? Am I good with numbers? Am I,
Mhm.
do I understand how systems work? Like, what are the skills? What are the talents? What are the passions behind what makes that label? So if
That's
somebody
good.
says you'd be a really good pilot, be like, hold on a second, I'm afraid of heights.
Right,
So
right.
take the labels away and get right down to the skills and the passions and the talents, the innately natural things that don't have a job title behind it.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, the labels is good, Darlene, because I think that we do tend to do that, right? And people, I think automatically we do that, right? We see
Yeah,
someone and we automatically have a label. I don't think we mean to, but we
right,
we kind of just do, right? It's
right.
that
And
that
that comes later.
yeah.
So if you've got those 20 skills, passions, and talents, it's like, what is that theme? What is that thread that runs through? So, for instance, somebody might like to really help people, like to be a problem solver, enjoy talking on the phone. Well, all those things could be like a customer service rep,
Hmm.
remote customer service rep, or you like working with animals. Um, but you don't like the goriness behind. If you want to be a veterinarian, you could be a dog walker, you could be a
Oh,
pet
good.
sitter.
Hmm.
There are so many things to be, but first you have to get the baseline that brings the joy from you, which is typically going to be your natural abilities, talents, and passions.
That's good. And it's also, not being afraid to think out of the box either. You may have an idea that nobody's done yet or haven't
Hmm.
done well yet, but that does not mean that it's not the right business for you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I get, sometimes we think, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And I think that's more fear than it is actually trying. Fear
Right.
is a big, big problem.
Yes, fear will stop you in your tracks. But at the same time, the way I like to look at fear is like it's a piece of cellophane.
Hmm.
It's like
Oh,
you
that's
don't
good.
necessarily see it, but you can feel it, but you need to
Mm.
like break through it to get to the next growth stage.
That's good. I like that analogy. I'm stealing that. Not only that, but cellophane, if you really push with enough resistance, you can break through. And
Exactly.
that's a
Yeah.
very great analogy. I
Yeah.
like
It's a
that.
little bouncy, but you can break through it.
So how do we find how to move to the next step? So I think you had touched on very lightly about motivators, right? So how
Yes.
how do we how do we go there? How do we know that we want to be the dog walker and not the vet? How do we know,
Yeah.
how do we do that? What's that?
Sure. So I think the first thing is, and I've shared with you, is a 6-page an assessment
Hmm.
of literally, do you like to do this, 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 and this?
Can I
So
share
going
that?
through the
Can I share that with the people?
Oh, absolutely. That would
Yeah,
be great because I
I'll
really
pull
think
that up.
that's the first step. Great. So this is a resource that I developed that helps you determine the skills, talents, and passions and expertise. And they're categorized by the skill set so that you can go through this. And I would recommend you doing it very quickly because this is what is natural. This
Oh,
is what
good.
just triggers you a joy. And if it doesn't, move on and do it very quickly. And then from there, you can take the highlights of what that category is and then bring in your community to say, is this right about me? This is an assessment that I did. Would you agree with this?
Hmm.
And then they'll help you pick it apart. But I think that's the first piece. And I want to also encourage people to, when you do this, sleep on it. Think about the answers and go back to it and say, wow, was I really honest there? I think I'm really good at fixing things, but I more enjoy telling people how to fix it rather than me picking up the screwdriver, you know? And then, it's not something that should be taken lightly because this is something that's really going to create that trajectory for you in the future. So spend some time on it, bring your, best friends in it, bring your folks that you really trust and value their opinion of you, but at the same time, they're there to encourage you and be very objective with you.
That's
And
really great. Wow, this is a
yeah,
big list. So go ahead. I'm
it's a
sorry.
big list, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also is what is your, when you're done with this and you've got your, your trusted advisors, if you will, around you, determine what is the thing that makes you motivated by this. Is it seeing the other people's faces on what you're doing? I know for me, very early on in my career, I needed that affirmation that I was really good. And that and I was really good at what I did. And what it was, I was very transactional. I needed to have a high amount of transactions that kept me high, if you will, in the affirmation mode. Since then,
Hmm.
I've changed to be more strategic in that I enjoy developing and growing other people. And so, and again, you can change what you were back in your teens, 20s, 30s, or 40s, can change. So back then I needed that ego, I needed the transactions, I needed a lot of things to make me feel really valued. But now my value is in knowing that I've changed someone into something that they didn't realize that they were, and they're so joyful about it now.
Wow, isn't that powerful? And I mean, I think I read somewhere that most people will go through at least 4 different career changes in their lifetime, right? So, and I think
Yes.
that's true because I think I'm on my third or something like that, third or
And it's
fourth,
okay, yeah, especially
third
now
or
there's so
fourth.
many.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's so many more opportunities now than there were, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So why wouldn't you, morph with what's going on in the world?
Right. So you think that we have to really not just look at what our innate natural instincts are or the things that we enjoy, but we
Yes,
also have to have a kind of an analysis of our motivators are, right?
yes,
So whether it's like you said, I know you mentioned ego, right? Which is and I guess I wanted to touch on that a little bit because we hear ego, we hear bad, right?
yeah,
But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that.
that's
Because like you
correct.
said, it was that desire to constantly have those transactions and that satisfaction to your ego that made you successful in what you were doing at the time,
Yes.
right?
And that's part of a foundation to the next growth stage, right? So don't be afraid. Ego has to come from a place of not hurting someone else or not hurting yourself, right? It's an ego because God wouldn't have made us, if we were egoless, right?
Right.
Because it is a motivator. It is something that is self, but if it's done from a position of non-love, then that's where it's bad. And it
Mm,
could turn into some nefarious types of things,
it's
things
true.
that you don't
Yeah.
really subconsciously realize that you're doing.
Yeah. And I think that's not just with ego, like that's with a lot of things in life, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I wanted you to, if you can, just kind of touch on a little bit of what examples can be of motivators. Do you have like examples of, you know, motivators for people?
Sure. So, one motivator could be that you enjoy the rush of speaking in public. I
Mhm.
know that was something that I was so fearful about. And then by happenstance, I had to speak in front of over 1,000 people. I had never trained for it or anything, but
That's
my,
scary. That's scary.
yeah, and it was live. It wasn't Zoom to be
Right.
edited out. But I hired a coach to help me with public speaking. I mean, it was
Oh,
only 5 minutes, but it felt like 3 hours. So, but the satisfaction I got of that process
mhm.
of hiring someone, practicing, getting in front of the live audience, and then the aftermath, I'm like, wow, that was amazing. So that was a good ego, like
Right.
I can do this, and that it really helped propel me in other areas. Other egos may be that you need money to help feel secure. You have a family. Money is a great motivator, as long as, again, whatever that piece of business is for the good of that client or customer. You don't want money to be such a motivator that you're doing things on the sly, and you're, got some
That's
white
true.
lies in
That's
there.
true. So it's
So you have to,
integrity too.
yep, good integrity, right. And then other motivators may not even include the ego. It may include someone else's ego, where you are that coach giving, um, coaching that person to speak in front of people. And that was your motivator, is to see that person blossom and go from, I'm scared to death, I'll be in the bathroom right before I have to go
Yeah.
speak, to, wow, look at what I've done. And that's a different ego motivator.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it could be to help people, it could be to make money, and it could also be for the ego, for maybe some kudos or to see someone else succeed.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Um so how do you go about discovering what that is in you, right? I guess it would go with your list maybe, because I saw very interesting things on there, even like horoscope readings and like all this kind of like really interesting things. That was a very extensive list. It made me, there was cheerleading on there, skydiving and racing and things like that. So I guess you're going to have to try some things out to see what you're good at and what you're not good at, right?
Right. And thinking about what you can do day after day, month after month, there's no reason why you can't go down one path and then go down another.
Mhm.
You don't have to stay on Route 1, to
Yeah.
get to Canada. You can get there many ways.
Right.
So, think about just, again, coming from the heart. What are the things that you think and you may have already done it year after year, day after day, and you just didn't realize it because you didn't journal it, you didn't catalog those things. And now
Mm.
that you're aware, and you want to be aware of the things that make you joyful and happy, um, the that's where you're going to start.
That's good. So it's not about what you think you're good at then. It's about discovering what you're good at and developing that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because I think that one of the things that maybe hinders women, I'm a woman, so I'm gonna just say women, that they discover what they're not good at, and then they are obsessed with what they're not good at.
Yes. Yes.
Like then we
Yes.
then we start, then it goes, now we're imploding, you know?
Yes, and that's where it's the reverse of the ego, right? Because you're suppressing what is good, part of the ego. And I think
Mhm,
also that, as women, again, we always want to be in control of everything. And
mhm.
there are things that you can't, because you're not good at it. You don't have the experience.
Right. And that's
And that's
okay.
it is okay. And that's where we devalue ourselves.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah.
think that you're good at everything, then you're not going to command the kind of monies, the kinds of services that you want to give out to people and get paid well for it. So if you if you're good at everything, why would somebody pay you $100 an hour when you're only that good at it? Versus if you're this good at it and you've gotten away from the things you're not good at, you can command those higher dollars and hire people for the things that you're not good at, because then you're valuing them, which you innately will value yourself.
That's good. So I think that's how we have to think about it. That's a very good way to think about it. So if we are not good at everything, hire people that are good at that thing so that we can value their skill set, right?
Which in turn values your own skill set.
Yeah, and it
Yes.
values, and they value themselves because they're doing what they're
Yes.
good at. That's
Yes,
very
that's
good.
right.
That's very good advice, because I think, like you said, we do as women tend to undervalue ourselves a lot. I've noticed that a lot in business. When I started my business, I was very underpriced, like very underpriced. And I remember doing a group of women, and I told them my services and what I was doing. And they were like, I would never hire you. And I said, oh, wow, why? And they said, you are so undervalued. Your prices are so low that we would question, why do we have all of these amazing services for so little?
Yeah. Right.
And that
Wow. That's so
really
powerful.
powerful. That changed my entire mindset, that
Yes.
one group of women, because I realized that I was talking to women that I wanted to reach. They were in more affluent communities and things, and I wanted to reach those women for my business. That's particularly
Yes.
this particular business that I was doing. And I just was like, wow, that was so valuable to me, because Darlene, to your point, we tend to not value ourselves enough, right?
Yes.
Or we think we're good at something we're not good at, which
Mhm.
already undervalues us,
Yes.
you know?
And on top of
Good.
that, don't discount your services. I
Mm-hmm.
kudos to my girlfriend who I was referring a piece of business to her, and silly me said, "So do you give referral fees?" And she goes, "Darlene, that would totally undervalue my skill set and what it is that I'm offering as a service." And I'm like, wow. So, I was completely fine with it. I wasn't offended, but it made me think like, wow, she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Don't give out discounts. As women, we have to stick to our guns
Yeah.
with what our values are and
Yeah.
how we value ourselves. And most of the time it's going to be monetary or, time for money in exchange for something.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. This is going to help a lot of people. I know that when people reach out to the Gigpreneur, they're going to get a amazing value for what they're seeking. The resource that Darlene showed us, I am more than happy to connect you with her so that she can, walk you through that process.
Great. So my website is thegigpreneur.com. My email address is Darlene, Darlene, at thegigpreneur.com.
This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much. Until
Thank you.
next time.